So thanks for coming to the 52nd Startup Meetup. My name is Chris Dima, and full of gratitude for everybody in this room coming, new faces, mostly not new faces, which is good. But I wanted to use this time to briefly drink during the day and not feel guilty about it. And also to draw on the board a couple of key things that I think were compelling in my head. And then to get each person who's been a significant part of this space to come up and share and answer a question or two. I'm going to put them on the spot. I really haven't given anybody a heads up that I was going to do that. And then I want to save time for to get some feedback, because we're doing a lot of planning for what's coming next year, and there are a lot of options, and it would be great to hear your perception or your idea, because you're in the community. We have a pretty diverse audience. So I'd like to share two brief anecdotes about I don't know how we got to this point. And one of them I just read 2 days ago. I forget the author. I'll see if I can remember it. But someone talked about how a key attribute of an entrepreneur is that they can get up after failure, after failure, after failure, and keep going, knowing that there's something out there that's going to work. And we started Walnut Street Labs technically about this time last year. Maybe it was November, but I think I signed an LLC in mid-December. But there was a whole year before that I was in this space, working with not random people, but a lot of different people trying to get something to work. And it was super tumultuous. And eventually, it was me thinking, should I just kick this off and run with it, or should I give up? And fortunately, I signed the lease and stayed with it, and figured I'd find a way to make it work. There's a lot of instinct, definitely not the lean canvas, because there was nothing really concrete I could point to, no business model. It was kind of me and Henry staring at each other. And if anyone knows Henry, his smile gets you a long way. On those depressing days, it was like Henry was like, ready to go. And I was like, I let Henry down. So I think that's important to talk about, repeated failure. It's a meme. It's kind of fun to talk about. It really does suck when you're experiencing it, but you just got to keep going. And the other one is an anecdote from Rick Nucci, and I would call this embarrassment. And actually, this is a 2-in-1 anecdote. I was walking home after Christmas last year through the alleys, and there was a little kid. He had a unicycle, and I could see from a distance that he'd just gotten it, and he was trying to use it. But as I got closer, he kind of pulled his unicycle around the car and kind of was going to wait for me to walk by so he could get back, because when you're trying new things, it's embarrassing, and you don't want other people to see it. But to get over that and to try to ride the unicycle in front of everybody, that's also a key attribute of, I think, being a successful entrepreneur. You have to be willing to fall down in public and look like an ass. But it goes back to that other one where you get up. And Rick Nucci shared an experience where he had been working on Boomi for 5 years, his startup. And he said people would see me and they'd say, hey, what are you doing? And he'd say, I'm still working at Boomi, and they'd look at him, or no, they'd say, are you still doing Boomi? And he'd say, yep. And he admitted himself that it was a little embarrassing, because you're supposed to just rock out a startup in 3 years and exit and everything's awesome. But in reality, it can take a long time. And I hear that a lot in this space, like, when are you going to have an exit, or when are you going to get this milestone? You don't know. You just got to stick with it. So those two are some really clear kind of thoughts in my mind as we get to this point. But what I wanted to do is, like I said, grab people and put them on the spot, and that way you could get a more thorough understanding of what it took to get here. And with that said, I'm going to grab Henry. Henry Ventura, everybody, give him a round of applause. So, Henry, I secretly use your life as an example story to a lot of people I talk about. You want to tell everybody about how you ended up at Wall Street Labs?
So, the majority of my working career has been sort of the standard first couple jobs, which is food service and retail and such. And my hobbies in the past have included things with computers. I dabbled with and I found that what really helped the sort of the taking off of programming as a skill that starts to take shape is to find yourself situated with other programmers, be in an inspiring environment. And so some people who would spend a lot of time here, they would come into Carlino's, which is where I used to work. So I asked them, like, hey, can I just do some work for you? Could I intern for you for free? And they said, yeah. And I was lucky enough that my parents could support me for a little bit because I had to give up pay at my retail job. And so that got me in here. Chris and I started talking, and just by having myself surrounded by other really talented people, I started learning about how businesses really work, because since it's such a small amount of people, I became involved in a lot of the aspects, from business development to client relations, and then to actually developing the technical product, which is a ton of fun. And then that turned into a life-changing experience, because actually having a skill which you can create value with is just really rewarding.
As I recall, you came in and interned for a guy named Conde, and you sat back against the wall, and I was sitting in my normal space, and you kept interrupting and saying, hey, what are you working on? Because I had my monitor up there, and Henry was just like watching everything I did, and like eavesdropping, or visually eavesdropping.
That's why I wrote an email. We had a first email exchange with each other, so it's eavesdropping on.
Yeah. So he was super curious, and then one of the first things I did before kind of taking Henry on as an intern is I asked him a couple of questions, and he responded via email. I wanted to make sure that he could write well, because that's my rule of thumb. If you can write well, then you probably can think well. And then you just started jumping into everything: web design, video, whatever we needed to do to pay the rent. And we didn't have really rent back then, so we were just taking on jobs. And then fast forward to 3 months ago, we are working with Chester County Economic Development Council to do office hours, and we had totally relied upon officehours.org, which was available technology for free that we were going to run this scheduling thing on, and they went under. And we tried to use another product called crap.com, book fresh, and it failed. So I looked at Henry, and we thought, can we build this thing from scratch? And Henry built it from scratch in like 6 weeks. So literally, yeah, full stack development in 1 year. It's a real big feat to be able to see the whole thing from server to front end interaction. That was a huge thing. So that's the kind of thing that comes out of here, I think, if you jump in and kind of let yourself meander. So 2015 for Henry. Well, he just got back from Switzerland. That was an outgrowth of having mad dev skills and picking up jobs here and there. Went solo, went into the Alps, crazy pictures. Like, I'm still not sure if they were a green room somewhere. But 2015,
more development. The idea of getting into a bit of hardware is really exciting. And what's really neat is, so a lot of the consumer drones out there, the software that they use is open source. So that's sort of the foot in the door for aeronautics, which I think is super cool. It's always been like a childhood dream to do something with something that flies.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Getting emotional. You're next.
I'm next.
Chris, is your phone set up?
Well, no. Well, yes.
Can you grab your laptops?
I don't think I have anything to show yet.
Okay, cool.
So this is Kevin Fleming. Technically you were after Henry, but
Yeah, it's good to do them in order.
yeah. You showed up after I put the sign on the window and scheduled an open house. Didn't know if anyone would come.
Yeah,
He came.
somehow.
Somehow. You want to share like where you were in life and then what happened that night?
Yeah, I guess I had an internet advertising company, and it was pretty much the polar opposite of this, because I was running these like massive campaigns globally with, you know, millions of visitors every month. And it's interesting because when I think about like the fulfillment I got from that versus the fulfillment I get from doing this every day, which is so like hyper local, it's like so much more fulfilling, but a much smaller scale, if that makes sense. So it just was interesting to me because for the previous maybe 5 years, that's what I was working on, and so to go from that to this was like a huge shift in life. But it was something that I thought I needed to do because I really, you do something for so long and then you kind of have to. I have to keep doing new things essentially, and so this was kind of the logical next step, was getting more involved locally, and I'm so glad that I did it because it's incredibly fulfilling, and I get to work with like amazing people. So,
Well, one of the notable things was that you kind of came and you decided to contribute, volunteer, and see where things go. And we had the idea to do this event, and we didn't know really who to ask. We went to my lawyer that had just met and said, "Hey, will you come and talk about starting a new business?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said yes. And then my neighbor's a score guy, and we're just like calling all of our friends, "Come, come, come! Fill it up, make it look like something."
Yeah.
And
well, and that's and I tell people that like the first week it literally was like, I don't know if anybody there was really interested in startups. It was like just anybody that we could convince to come out here. And but slowly it kind of shifted away from, I mean, those people still came, but then we actually did get a lot of people who were interested in startups. And I think that's, when you think about the Startup Meetup, I think at its like very core, it's not really about startups or innovation. It's really about self-empowerment and how you can really do, with enough willpower, you can do really anything you want to do. And I mean, we've had so many amazing speakers, like Mike, good examples. Mike Phelan, here's a guy who's battling multiple sclerosis and went and built a company and sold it to Bain Capital for hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've just seen that again and again and again over the past year here. And so it really doesn't matter if you're interested in startups, or maybe maybe you're just interested in finding an awesome job. And but I think the recurring theme throughout all of our startup meetups is making the most with the cards that you're dealt and just finding a way to make it work. And that's like consistently everybody that's spoken, I think they've all done that in one shape or form.
And dispelling the myth that there's some extra special quality or asset that you got from somewhere that propels you. Like Mike Phelan, I think he said he dropped out of school.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pot smoking, jazz guitar, Porsche mechanic.
I don't know if he ever said the pot smoking,
I think he did.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe. now it's in that.
Does anyone second me on that?
He's a fan of YouTube, we'll hear about it.
Yeah, so, he just decided to go with his instinct and built a company, sold it for $100 million,
Yeah.
admitted that he got hosed, could have made 200 million.
Yeah.
Ended up doing step 1.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And then I think the other big compelling experience that we had together is we always had the incubator in mind as end of the year. And Chris Lamar walked in the door and he had this idea, and we just helped him peel back the layers and think about getting to something really fundamental and very valuable. And after about 4 weeks, a lot of people in here helped build assets for it and work on it. And we looked at each other and I said, was that just the first incubated company? And it was. It gave us the experience without even committing to being an incubator to just try to improve an idea and to productize it, and that was it.
Yeah, to just execute. And it's the same thing with this event. We didn't know, we didn't set out to do 52 startup meetups. We didn't even know if we would do startup meetup number 2. But we somehow, or if we would be open for startup meetup number 2, but somehow we just kept pushing ourselves forward.
Yeah, it was frigid, snowed,
last year it snowed like every single it was every Tuesday. So
for the first 4 or 5.
And I have a car that's just absolutely terrible in the snow, so I don't know how I survived, but somehow we just made it work.
All right, 2015.
And 20, I think I think we've built an awesome foundation, and I just hope that we can keep pushing forward and growing it, and everybody here can keep supporting us and telling your friends and family about what we're doing here, because it's incredible from the inside to see what we were working with and what we had to begin with, and all the support that we have now. And I just kind of the last thing I wanted to say was that I think it's really tough to change or create like a culture. It's tough to change people's habits and to get people to do things or think differently. And the only way to really do that is to keep doing something again and again and again and again until what you're doing becomes the norm and the old way becomes not the norm. And so when I think about like our progress here, I like to think that if we stopped doing the Startup Meetup this week, that a lot more people would feel like something was missing in this area. And so that's how I know that we're kind of making progress. So
that's a good way to put it. Thank you. Mr. Events himself, Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey guys.
So Ben showed up, like a couple of students from Westchester that I've known, saying, hey, what's this place? Can I be a part of it? And you became an intern.
I thought it was a coffee shop. This is a coffee shop.
Yeah, branding problems.
Yeah.
We gotta solve that. Took us a while to get even that, but yeah, so you came in anyway.
Yep.
So self-selected there for someone who's brave to talk to brand new people. And you had your thesis in hand, maybe?
Yep.
But I was more interested in your punk rock knowledge base.
Yeah, that was something I had never dropped at an interview, which was like I went on tour with a punk band, and that was something that I, generally would hide from a potential interviewer. And that was something that excited Chris's, I guess, ethos or the kind of creative, yeah.
Yeah, I think you shared the idea that you had canvassed for shows. And that's kind of what we needed for the Startup Meetup. And you actually ended up going to the university and like grabbing people and saying, you've got to come to the Startup Meetup. And you did your internship and you'd never done social media, aside from canvassing and more like face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
But just threw him in the deep end of the pool, and out comes Startup Meetup, 52 weeks, we're booked through March.
April.
Because April.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Ben, we would be doing this on like a week-to-week thing, but you've helped us to get out of that.
Yeah,
So
we had some sketchy times when we were, I was telling Kevin about how there was a friend of mine who worked at Roots, and I asked him like the day before while I was eating my eggs at lunch, hey, you want to play your guitar for our Startup Meetup? And just like talk about your process as a musician. and that was like the day before, and I was sweating bullets as I was like shoveling eggs. And he said, yeah, and so we had a number of people who were kind enough to cover for us. And I think it was really good that we had those moments because it forced us to get outside of the perhaps desirable like tech startup culture that we've tried to cultivate. Because we had authors and other people that maybe didn't fit the little box that we tried to make for ourselves, which I think was good.
Yeah, I remember when Joel came in, it was a smaller group. It was frigid that day, and my kids were here with my wife, and he shared, to sing, he sang in front of us some of his new songs, and it was a real intimate setting, and it was an awesome, different kind of Startup Meetup. So from your perspective, because you live in a world that I don't live in, in social media, you're driving a lot of that engagement, and when people we have a lot of people come from Philadelphia that have heard of us. Everyone who comes say, yeah, we've heard a lot about you guys, and that's because of the events and the blogging and the social media around the Startup Meetup. So
I think it's really common for organizations and people, human beings, to have the misconception that social media does more than it actually does. To some extent it does because it allows you to broadcast what you're doing, but if no one's looking, if we're kind of just starting things up from the ground up, people don't really know to look to us. So I think having taking the time to go into Philly and hand out your cards when no one knows you and all that stuff, I think to me was the most meaningful part of the process, because it is what really allowed us, I think, in part to have people's to have our name on people's mouths and kind of accelerate that and know to look to our social media because they know that we exist. So I love social media, but I think that in the process of growing and learning about it, that not placing too much emotional stock in it is important, because anyone can like a page or share an event, but it actually takes energy, physical energy to come in and contribute to these events. So thank you, all of you, and to everyone else who has come over the last 52 weeks. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing here.
So when we had to give Ben a position title, we came up with community evangelist, and I remember that you posted to social media that it was the perfect title for you, and that's really kind of your function here. And I think that I want to say thanks for helping build the community.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been an awesome ride. And what's your 2015 prognostication?
I want to build up co-working so that it is attractive to small companies that are teams, and we've gone through that through social media and tried to appeal to small organizations, but I really want to get an ecosystem in here that is able to enjoy all of the resources that we have, and I think that may involve recalibrating how we are doing our pay structuring. But it may not involve that. I just want to continue to grow this place so that it's a staple in our town, and also a hub for our region, as well as a satellite to the tech boom in Philadelphia. Not just because I want people to know about us, because egocentrically that's true, but I want to be able to have, which is why I respect this guy so much, Chris and Kevin and everyone else here, because they really have their heart in it. I just want to do something for our community. So.
Yeah, the better cash flow, more stability would be good. Dan Pishak in the back, who was here through the year before the lab and is a local and has been keeping track of what's going on. We were texting last night, and I sent him a text that said something like, you can either have momentum or stability. The former begets the latter, but not vice versa, or not in reverse. And I feel like or am good at or am focused on momentum, but there's got to be the counterbalance of stability, because otherwise it's just like this crazy rocket that goes into the side of a wall.
Yeah,
we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, thanks, dude.
Yeah.
I've got to ask Ludermoser to put down the camera for a minute and come on up.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kyle, give me a shot.
And we may run out of time to try to do it more quickly, get through a couple more people. This is the, I think aside from the events, it's the video of the events, the live streaming and the vignettes that really make this place look better than it actually is, right? That's what TV, good editing, and music do, and I feel like we look pretty badass because of you. And can you share a little bit of your story? Because you had a similar experience that kind of Henry had. You came in and...
Yeah, I just graduated. I went back to school and I got my degree. And I was kind of looking for a job, and I was also kind of maybe thinking about doing more education. And then I was just invited by Chris Lamar, just kind of out of nowhere. And he's like, check this place out. And I can remember the year before passing this all the time, and I can remember seeing Henry in there. I'm just always like, what's going on in there? But so it came in.
Smiling at somebody.
Yeah. So I came in with Chris, and I met everyone, met Chris, and this kind of just kept on showing up.
Yeah, did free work.
Yeah.
You helped out on the logo for 23 North.
Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of the video stuff just kind of evolved from there. Just kind of jumped in.
Yeah, so two of my friends kicked off the concept of the video. They did the first 2 or 3, and then May needed. We were doing some product shoot in the basement. You jumped in, and you hadn't done video before. No video. And then my 2 friends had to go back to their lives in Philadelphia, and you took it over, fully took it over from February on, without kind of a video as a skill set, and you just did it, which is the ethos or the fundamental part of a startup. Get into it, learn it, and do it.
I guess that's where the further education I was looking for was just something brand new, and just jumping in and just do it.
Yeah.
Action.
And just if I asked Henry, envision some project and build it. Those kinds of assignments are vapid or not that compelling. But when we were Henry, we have no platform for this thing that we're supposed to build that was supposed to go live. Can you help build it? Then you dive in and you build it because it's meaningful and it's being used immediately. So the videos were we were doing them. They were going out in 2 or 3 days. Now we do it in the morning. It goes out in the afternoon. That's transformational video strategy and delivery. I think we've come a long way in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. I can just remember one of the first Startup Meetups. Ben was pinning a cloth to the wall for projection screen.
Yeah.
It was a bed sheet.
Yeah, the bed sheet. Yeah, and I was just what is going on?
Oh yeah, and your friend sold this thing, and I pretended I had the money, but stalled him so we could pay off the next week.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
We should do a memory roll or something like that. But 52, I don't know if we have 52 videos. We probably have close to 52 videos, and we did a lot of the demos. And really, I think those things are branding assets for the person who comes and for us. And they live on, so it's a key ingredient to what's going on here. And I don't see anybody, at least in Philly or anywhere else, kind of doing the speaker series and the video. So thanks for helping make that happen. What's your 2015 prognostication?
Just keep on rocking what we've been doing and keep on growing with how the lab's been growing. So.
Cool.
Just keeping up with everything.
All right, thank you. Brad Miller, are you come up?
Sure.
I don't know, Brad doesn't come that often. He used to be a night owl's dog, but then he moved to Philly. So, like I said before, the incubator kind of got turned on through this guy, Chris Lamar, who came in. But then Brad really kind of picked it up and gave us more form. I remember you were sitting over here, kind of quiet, and it was one cold night. I think Michael, you were here that night, and maybe a couple other people. And I went over and introduced myself, and you explained that you just finished your master's degree in computer science, and you built this thing. And we were chatting and you explained it, and I thought, that sounds like a product to me. And I think that you said something like, yeah, I never thought of that.
No.
So I would call you somewhat in my non-engineering life a kind of a, I've seen patterns where developers do side projects. They solve things, they're problem solvers. And this particular side project got you your master's degree. But then it was compelling to me that we pursued a relationship and built a company out of this. And it's called Mongo Sluice, and it's really powerful. And we've talked to Rackspace, Amazon, Dell, WebMD, HP Vertica, and almost all of those came out of some connection that had happened here and some dogged stalking on LinkedIn. But without the technology, we wouldn't have been able to get any of those meetings. So really, the incubator model is built around the experience that we've had with Brad, that there's a lot of innovation in America that might just end up as a thesis and it's a feather in your cap. You know you did it, it's personally satisfying to you, but why not let that thing live? You've got a great job, you've got great career trajectory. You're not going to jump out like a fool like I was and just say, hey, we're going to build something great, even better. No, most people are sane and responsible. But if there was a place like this where you could bring your innovation in and you could get accounting, legal, biz dev, marketing, engineering support, then your product, your idea has a chance to grow in a way that's advantageous to you, advantageous to us, advantageous to the economy, right? And so I have to give big thanks to you for kind of trusting that we could do the job and kind of going into partnership with us.
Most definitely.
So in retrospect, is that still a good idea?
Well, you know what it, I think what it did is, actually talking to clients was, my big struggle was, what do I add next to this thing? And it was like, well, I think this would be interesting, so I'll add that. And I think that's interesting, I'll add that. But what talking to clients was like, hey, it'd be really cool, does it do this, does it that? And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Like, now I have real tangible features to add, because without that, it's like I'm just swimming in the dark. So that was, I think, and lots of features that now exist in the product are from our conversations that we've had with clients. So,
Can you describe the product?
Sure, I can try in 30 seconds. Basically, it is it's a platform to transform data from what's called a NoSQL store to a relational database store. And it does this sort of on the fly. It can kind of, I don't know how deep to get into it, but it will basically unwind this very complex data structure and put it into a digestible relational database format.
Let me try an alternative way of explaining
Yeah.
it. So think about Amazon.com. Think about all the clicks, all the page scrolls, all the interactions. Amazon just dumps that into a giant bucket and says, when we need to analyze it, we will. When it needs to analyze it, it moves it into a rows and columns situation. And it takes a while to move it. What Mongo Sluice does is just streams it immediately. So you have the insight into that chaos immediately. And so that doesn't exist. And when it came time to make a decision about whether we go forward with this, we looked out, or you told me, you said, listen, I don't find anybody talking about this except this one Ukrainian scientist.
Yeah, right.
Obscure slide share.
500 views or something.
Yeah, and we're like, well, that's at least one person's talking about it, and he works for WebMD. He's the chief architect. And so I tried to contact him, he didn't respond. And then when we got the product a little further along, or my way of approaching him, we got him to respond. And he acknowledged that it was a real big problem, and everyone acknowledges a really big problem, but no one was talking about it. But most people would have said, why would you touch that if there's not 50 bigwigs in the industry telling you that's the problem? By then, it's too late, because everyone's involved and trying to solve it. So definitely people are trying to solve it. we think we're 6 months to a year and a half out, so we're a little frantic to try to ram it down someone's throat and get someone to buy us. But we're having fun, and Henry's been supporting like a second level of engineering support, and it caused us to go to Amazon and get like a startup incubator status where they give us free resources, and we put MongoSauce in there because we're burning through money to support the demo environment. And Wilhelm, there it is, he intern from Westchester Junior. He's working on it now. I haven't even introduced you to it, but he can demo it. So we're just kind of grabbing resources, building this, and I think that through this experience, we really know how to approach our incubator. And we've been told by a number of people that this is a great model because there's so many people who have such compelling ideas that we think it's got legs. And it doesn't require a ton of resources like a normal incubator because it was already done. Yeah. And it's just a matter of finding the acquirer, finding the model. So we're in an exciting place in technology, and Brad has 18 other ideas that are on the whiteboard. So we just need to get this one out of the way, and then we'll be good.
Where did the name come from?
Well, a sluice moves water really quickly from large to other, right? If you look at a sluice, it's like this funnel. So, and Mongo is the part of the name of the biggest non-relational database vendor, MongoDB. So Mongo sluice. Is it good? Do you like it?
I like it even more now.
Yeah.
I just thought it sounded cool.
No one knows what a sluice is.
I know what sluice is. And it's a good name.
All right, so 2015 prognostication.
More features and hopefully an acquisition.
Yes.
Excellent.
Amen to that. 9:49. Power round. Wilhelm. This is Wilhelm. His resume ended up on my computer somehow. I still don't know. You just walked in.
I was
That's a recurring theme here, by the way.
I was job hunting and I just walked in with a stack of resumes and said, "Here, take this," and that worked.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we were special. Maybe you should sit back down. No. So, how did you hear about us? Were you just like dropped one at Sue Kim and then walked in next, or was there some screening? Like, had you heard about us?
Well, I didn't drop one off over there. I dropped one off at Pita Pit, and then I walked over here. I actually hadn't heard of this place, but I looked inside and I just thought, wow, that looks really cool in there. I wonder what they do. And so I walked in and asked. And when I found out, Ben was the first person I saw, and I thought, wow, he looks really cool.
That's why we put him by the front door.
And I asked, and I handed my resume, and I said, hopefully I'll hear back.
Yeah. And I didn't like immediately throw it away. I put it on Chris's desk, and then there was an interview.
Well, I saw a dual major science and mathematics.
Yeah.
And an interest in cryptology or
Cryptography.
Cryptography.
Which is what Andrew's into.
Yeah, and so I called them, and with younger kids, adults, you've been coding since you were 13, and you shared an anecdote that your professor won't even let you hand in the assignments that he assigns to other people because he knows that you've been doing it forever, so he has a way higher standard for you. And I thought, this kid probably can solve a lot of problems. So threw him into the deep end. He's working with Henry. He's demoing Mongo sluice. He's hacking on Kio, which is a Ruby app. And my biggest fear is that someone will offer you a lot of money and you'll quit school and move to San Francisco. So we have to avoid that by making it, having more cool-looking people work here.
And maintaining friendships. That our friendship is more valuable than moving to San Francisco, being by yourself and rich.
And Westchester is cool. So he's also our mole inside the computer science community.
Now we have to change the mold because.
Yes. So the idea is that we've got to get more students here because as Henry demonstrates, a good project that lives in the world in a meaningful way is a great way to get a job and get experience and get a career. So thanks for Wilhelm for just walking through. 2015. You still be in school, right?
Yeah, I'll be in school for 2015. I'm starting to take classes like software engineering, so I'm hoping to like apply that here and hopefully take after Henry and build a project of my own.
Nice. Great. Thank you. Power round. Shawn Dominski, can you step away real quick? Shawn might predate even Dan Pishak. You were here. This place was called Rework before it was Walnut Street Labs. And a great guy, Tom Hadzina, and his buddies had the vision, but they ran out of gas at the end of the year when I just really committed to kind of living in the basement. And I was like, no, you can't. So you've been here forever. How's it been?
Oh man, well, first of all, Dan Pishak does predate me because he is how I first originally heard about Rework. I think it was his like Facebook post and I was like, oh, I know Dan, I know Tom. This sounds like cool. So I would say at first, the first incarnation was first co-working, and they kind of had this idea where eventually they were hoping to get into the incubator part. So when, through a lot of different iterations, one being an app, I think, where we were selling to local businesses. Wow, that just feels like so long ago. But eventually, it became Walnut Street Labs. It was real interesting because you really focused. I felt like you were focusing on the incubator because that's where you really wanted to be, and that's where you saw the success. Kind of eventually, you knew just being a co-working spot had a limited viability, and I think once you started moving into the incubator side of things, that started picking up. Obviously, I would say since the live event started, we've seen more traction than we probably would have expected. I mean, I'm kind of blown away. It was just like a couple months ago. It's just kind of like, wow, this is actually something now. Like we're not like you described those first couple of weeks where you're just kind of bringing people in. Like this isn't like a random assortment of people looking to hand out business cards. Like this is actually a real thing that's actually really happening in Westchester of all places. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's kind of what I've seen, and it's been fun. I've been doing the live streaming since I don't know. I mean, some point January, February. I was just talking to Kevin how there's a date where we started doing the live streaming, and then there's a date where it started working.
Huge time stamp on the side or something.
Yeah, or having the sound in various different ways. There was a period of 4 weeks where it was nope, that doesn't work. Nope, that doesn't work. So I think we've gotten pretty consistent over the last couple of months, which is pretty exciting, and I think it's starting to pay off. Because when people talk about Walnut Street Labs, they're like, oh yeah, they're heavy on events, which I think is definitely has a lot to do with what Mike and Ben does here, but partly also the fact that who else even live streams their events? The technology is there. I mean, like you said, it's free. It's the equipment, I bring the equipment and the time, but the technology is free. And that was another thing. YouTube just started doing their free live streaming, and I was like, Chris, we should check this out, see if it works, experiment with it. And it was a little patchy at first, but now it seems like as YouTube's gotten more reliable and consistent, so of late.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Prognosis or
for 2015? Honestly, I would say that if we moved linearly, that would be pretty cool. From where we were a year ago to now to another year. But I have a feeling that it's going to be more exponential. And honestly, I don't think I would have been I don't think I would have put my money on where we're at now. So I don't really want to undershoot where I think we're going to be this time next year.
Well, thanks. That's awesome. Thanks. I gotta acknowledge Pishak. Dan, you want to stand up for a second?
Sure.
Actually, come on up for a second.
All right.
Dan, yeah, you were here when I bumped into Rework, and we worked together on a couple of projects, and you were there to kind of help brainstorm what this place should be. And just really, because of the kind of economic instability, you had to go and grab a more traditional job. I've often tried to convince you to come back. And maybe in the future when we're stable, I'll steal you back. But you're committed to Westchester, and you loved what was going on in Rework, and you've been here. You have observations?
Absolutely. As Chris aforementioned, I'm very close friends with a mutual friend of Chris and I's, Tom and Zena. He started this place as a co-working space. Love Tom's idea, Tom's vision, but as you mentioned, it sort of ran out of gas. Got immediately started working with Chris on a variety of different projects. Mostly, I don't know what we call them, e-commerce sites. And there's many sort of, this place has evolved significantly, and you can definitely see the growth and the buzz grow over the last year of this place. It's awesome to see. As Chris said, I have a 9 to 10 job, so I don't unfortunately get to come down here too often, but I live right down the street, and I'm a huge fan of Westchester. I've been all over the Western world 100 times over, and I'll tell you what, like, when my wife, who's from Oregon, and I decided to settle down, I specifically chose Westchester. Like, I mean, this is being in, you name it. So I've been there. So it's sort of one of those things where you could tell Westchester needed something like this. In fact, probably wanted it. And it's really amazing to see Chris sort of, what would you call it, spearhead this movement. And it just seems to be the perfect timing because there's a major technology boom in Philadelphia, so this is a good thing to be a part of.
Yeah, we'll have you back as a speaker in May. All right. So what's going on in 2015 for Westchester, for technology in Philly, or?
I just see the space continuing to grow. I see a number of digital marketing houses and, what would you call them? Design firms and UX firms really starting to boom that are getting international attention. It's obvious, even with search engine. I'm a senior SEO strategist for a digital marketing house, an advertising house out of Malvern, PA. And you can just see, with DuckDuckGo and some other, some UX stuff, that there's some really cool companies coming out that are, I think, without a doubt, putting Philadelphia on the map in that sort of technology space. So it's exciting to be a part of, and it's also exciting to witness as well.
Coolio. Thanks. Jesse, I'm going to kind of hit a couple of people here. Jesse Cain volunteered as special events coordinator, helped kick off and runs Indie Film Night, which is a great outgrowth of the use of the space. Do you want to stand up so we could clap for you?
Yeah, I'm going to run the board too.
And your chili cook-off.
That's my word, because that explains how I walked in here and how I think how a lot of things work. It's like that magic of, I was thinking about the story of, like Moses parting the waters. Like, that doesn't really need to literally happen, not to offend anyone's sensibilities. I mean, it might have, but that to me is like when you have the right idea, things fall into place. It's not that you don't have to work hard, but they fall into place, like the seas being parted. And that was really what led me in here, and what keeps me here is like that same magical thing. It's like whenever, I just love being surrounded by all the fearless, shameless, incredibly bright people here, and all the energy has been really magical, and that's, so I wrote on the board.
And you're part of that, and I think Kevin's always wanted to exceed the fire code with for a number of people in here. I think you did that on the night that the first indie
or second. Yep.
And so you pulled together sponsors and speakers. Kyle Hudson also presented or showed films there. Where our next one is in
February, first Thursday in February, our first feature length.
So yeah, look for more of that. And for 2015, are we going to see more of Jesse?
Yeah, I want to find out, because I showed up and gave myself a title and just started hanging out here. So I would like to, maybe make that into more of a thing. Whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
It's nebulous now, but whatever that thing is.
We'll make it a thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody should be up here. Mark Barzik, you guys stand up and kind of acknowledge that you came for the first Night Owls.
For the first Night Owls, yeah.
That, too bad Brandon's not here. Brandon Hilkert started Night Owls, so suggested that we do it. You showed up to meet Brandon because you were learning Ruby. You have a couple of companies under your belt, and you've been here like clockwork for the Sumus and the Night Owls. Great community member. Do you want to talk about, share an observation and share a prognosis or a forecast for the new year?
Well, it's just been great to see the growth from the beginning of last year. The first Night Owls, we had maybe 3 or 4 people, maybe 5 or 6. I think Clay was here, I was here, Henry was there. I don't know if Michael was there or not.
I don't think I came to the first meeting.
But there was like a handful, and then it kind of kept growing from there. And then the same thing with Startup Meetups every week. I mean, I just love that you're putting out the content every week. My startup dealing with content, it's a good thing to see. I just like Shawn was saying, I see exponential growth coming out next year because you have been growing very steadily, and it's just a matter of time before one of these companies kick in, and you're going to really be attractive to everybody else around here.
Cool, thanks for your participation. I wanted to drink and go on a tour of upstairs if anybody wants to, but I want to give thanks to Jeannie McGinn for being a great partner. She is the branch manager at Fulton and has all the bank accounts for everything that's going on here and has been dogged at getting us on track and connecting us to everybody in town who's worth connecting with. And for taking me out to lunch yesterday, so thank you. Ray Sarnacki for being attracted. I don't know how you came here the first time. Either. He just ended up here. He's at Wharton and has been an active advisor and did 3 office hours last week, and kind of brought us one of our first job ads posted to Tech Jobs through his daughter who works at a company in Conshohocken. So really just trying to fill in and give energy and promote us. So I really appreciate that and look forward to working with you in the new year. Larry McHugh sold me my family's Honda and then got back into insurance and has connected me with some key people who are helping me strategize around products that have unique insurance profiles. But you've been here a number of times. You're telling people about this place. You look damn good in a tie and a suit and put us all to shame. One day I'll get you to drop the tie and we'll take a picture. That's your boss. Thank you for coming out and bringing all those people and being an advocate. Robert Byrne, dude I knew back when I was at college who ended up coming. Yeah. Recently at SAP, moved on to iPipeline, and in between kind of lived here and rocked out some awesome tweets and is sharing the story, trying to help us get sponsorships. And we are a family-friendly environment, so bring your kid anytime. Shawn,
2015, we can get some of that big Fortune 100 money
Yeah.
sponsored in here. I used to work for some big companies. Got some good contacts, so I'm going to definitely put myself to work to get some of that money flowing through here.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I think that's what you get and a lot of people are getting. It's not that we want to be successful and take sponsorship dollars. We want to put that money to work to raise the profile of the area and attract people so that it benefits everybody. So thanks for getting that. Michael Raber, you were one of the first, maybe the first presenter from Bonafide Tech World after John Fisher, maybe, who's in hard science. Thanks for presenting, and then most recently doing like a pilot for your new app. That means a lot to, and I think something that we think that we can offer the community. I always tell people if you're going to demo a product, yeah, you can do it to your mom, but she's going to tell you that it's awesome. You can go to strangers, but they're going to tell you whatever. But if you come here, you're going to get people who are in the space and who are thinking considerately about your product and your end game, and we think that's valuable for rapidly developing products. So you've been here for a while. I don't know if you want to share an observation, because you've been in the Philly tech scene for a while and been part of startups.
I keep coming back, so I can
Yeah. And bringing your kids.
bring my kids. Yeah. So for 2015, I actually want to get my kids more involved, and I think, well, I know Zach is kind of working on that now, an idea, and it'd be kind of cool if he could present at some point. One of the night owls, I think he'd enjoy that.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Which reminds me, Mark has been talking about doing stuff in the summer for kids, some boot camps. And thank you, everybody. If you want to grab a drink, more champagne, and we'll open up upstairs. We have no furniture, but we're moving. We have access to another floor for co-working and startup shenanigans. So feel free to hang out.
Take everyone up and get a shot of everyone kind of checking us.
Oh yeah, you want to be part of a photo op? Okay, thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate it. And let's do this again next week.